When you get this inspection done, it's your biggest inspection of the home. When you get that done, it's a whole new transition. This is Keith with How to Build Your Own Home, and I'm moving towards what's called a 7-way inspection in my particular area. A 7-way inspection is typically all of your mechanical and framing and all of that at once. A lot of cities, even some counties, are combining their framing with their mechanical, and they say, you don't call us until you're ready with everything. That's kind of frustrating because you want to get your framing inspection done and then come in and deal with your mechanical. And that's typically the way it used to be, and a lot of jurisdictions do it that way. But in my particular area, they want everything. Because there's such a building boom in my area, they don't want to send inspectors out over and over again for one inspection after another after another. They just want to get them all done and spend 20, 30 minutes on the job site getting everything inspected. So that makes it kind of rough, because sometimes if you have to make an adjustment on framing, there's mechanical on the way. So you have to think in advance to make sure you get that kind of stuff done. A couple things I want to walk through when you get to that point, because once you get your mechanical and your framing inspection done, guess what? Insulation, you can do the outside, you can start wrapping things up, you can start to enclose the home. More subcontractors can come and work on the job. So the sooner you get that inspection done, the better. A couple things I want to walk through real quickly on here. This here is a front door, and a lot of times inspectors will want that installed before they want the entire house sealed up, but I'm not going to install that. I will end up talking with my inspector and say, this is the only way into the house. Well, I've got to bring in drywall and all kinds of heavy equipment through this door. It's the only way efficiently to bring materials in, so I don't want to damage that door. So I'm going to hold off on that, and they should be able to pass me on that. They shouldn't give me a hard time on that. But some jurisdictions will. They'll want the entire house sealed up. So I'm going to wait on this. This is a very expensive door. Something to note on front doors, it's typically the signature piece of a home. And when you're budgeting on a front door, make sure you budget the proper amount. I usually budget between $2,500 and on up for a front door. You can go, $600, $800 and get something that's pretty standard, but make sure you've got a nice budget for your front door and the labor hours to install that. Let's walk around. Now, mechanical inspection has all of my electrical, all the wires, making sure that I've got some wires. Typically in my area, they want to see a staple within 8 inches of the box. Also 8 inches up there, but they're not too much of a stickler on that. They used to be. Not anymore. When I used to do electrical, they were really, really tough on that. They just want to make sure it's stapled here and stapled up at the top. Checking all your wires. I like to make sure that these are pushed in. The drywallers are going to come in and zip around that, and if they don't hit the outside, they'll hit the inside, and they're going to just tear up those wires. So I'm going to double check on the wires before drywall start. But back in here, we have our mechanical room, and plumbing's not quite finished. We're waiting on a tub that will come in over in this particular area. We had a right-hand tub sent to us, and we need a left-hand tub. Let me explain what that is so you know. This here's our drain for a tub, and it's a left-hand drain. So as you're facing the tub, it's either a right or a left or a center drain. Well, on the plans, it did indicate a left-hand drain. They sent us a right-hand drain, so we're waiting on that. As soon as that comes tomorrow, plumber's gonna finish, and we'll have gas installed on Thursday. I'm pushing for a 7-way inspection on Friday morning because I've got insulators coming that very same day. That's kind of a tight schedule, but I want that tightness because I can't hit my insulator until 2 weeks later if I don't hit him Friday. So that puts me out 2 weeks, and I don't want that. So I said, yeah, come Friday. I believe I can get to my 7-way inspection, which means I've got to be on top of a few things. So we're getting that tomorrow. Plumbing will be finished tomorrow. Over here on your electrical panel, you want to just double check on everything. I want to make sure that all my lines are labeled, and my electrician does a great job. This is JR Electric, and they do a great job of that. Everything's labeled on here. Make sure that's cleaned out in there. And then of course you just put a box in there, a piece of box, and cover that up. You want that covered up because when the drywallers come, they're just going to make a mess of it, and then when the painters come, they'll make a mess of it inside. So that protects all that, and that's not going to be touched until you actually start to paint. After you paint, finished electrician will come in, make up the panel, land everything on this breaker, and power it up. But until then, it stays there. Now the inspector will pull that out and they'll take a look to make sure that they're grounded. I've got a grounding over here. I got a U for ground here, and I've got an acorn here that's grounding that grounding rod. We'll have our meter panel out here. That's not quite done. We're pushing to get that done this week as well. But the inspector is going to want to make sure that's set, which is why I don't have this sheeted over. I've got the sheeting right here. Once that's done, then we'll sheet it over, and then we'll be done. And you want to make sure your site's as clean as possible when inspectors come. When they have to step over stuff and climb over stuff, it says something that this site's not ready. There's something wrong. So I'm going to spend a lot of time this week cleaning up the site, getting it ready for it. I'm trying to contact my landscaper to try to get all this graded out and cleaned up as best we can, get that inspected and get that finished off. But when it comes to 7-way, there's a couple of other things. I really need to get my roof loaded. Asphalt can be between 300 and 400 pounds per 10 by 10 section. That's a certain amount of weight being put on a roof. And you want to have your roofing materials loaded on the roof as soon as you can, because that's going to affect your drywall, especially when they start to do mud, tape, and texture. I've got tile roof, which is about 840 pounds per 10 by 10 section. I've got to get that loaded this week as well. At least get it loaded and stacked up there, because that's going to have a serious effect on drywall and everything else from here on out. So that's not part of my 7-way inspection, but I need it on there as soon as possible, because insulation is the most affordable and the quickest subcontractor you'll have. They take maybe a day and a half, sometimes 3-4 days tops. Electrical, it took about 2.5 weeks to do the electrical on this. Roofers take quite a bit of time. Framing, obviously, several weeks. But your insulator is really quick, which means I can get drywall in here immediately thereafter. If I time this right, I can actually start to hang drywall next week, which is why I need to get that roof loaded, because it's going to affect that drywall. Once you don't want that roof loaded after drywall, you really want it loaded before, especially since this is going to be stuccoed as well. We'll talk more about stucco in a couple of weeks, but I'm really focusing in on my 7-way inspection, which is my framing inspection, my shear inspection, my hold down inspection, everything related to framing. Then it's related to all of my HVAC, my electrical, my gas. They will require a gas map that showcases where the gas is going, how it's sized, how many units are going to be loaded on it, etc. And that map has to be here so that when the inspector comes, they just take a picture of that map, load it up on the file online, you're good to go. I have one other thing I need to do, that I've got a truss inside there that is being recalibrated on paper only, so that when the inspector comes, he's going to see that on the plans it calls for a beam for a transfer beam over the master bedroom. Well, I already worked that out with the truss company, and they said, yeah, our truss will replace that beam. It will be able to have the torque and pull on it that's required by the engineer. I've got to get that letter. That letter has to be here, so when the inspector comes, he sees that letter is being approved for that truss to hold that engineered requirement. Rather than a beam, which is costly, we just incorporated it inside the truss. So there's a lot of things you're getting ready for when it comes to a 7-way inspection. Again, your mechanical and your framing inspection. Just get your site clean, get it organized, know exactly what you need, so that when the inspector comes, it's not a mess, it's organized, and you have all your paperwork ready to go. I'll let you know how that goes later on this week, but this is a big transition. Several people can come to the job site and start working on it again. And you'll find that getting to 7-way, or getting to that major inspection, it starts to slow down and there's not much happening, because you're trying to get little things dealt with. As soon as they're done, that inspection's done and it passes, it's a whole new transition. Really fun. People outside, people inside working again. You'll find that to be the case in construction. It goes like this and it goes in waves. But we're now at that transition, trying to get our 7-way inspection. We'll check in on it, see how it goes later this week. This is Keith Couch with How to Build Your Own Home.